Hi everybody, welcome to GTCoding. In this tutorial series, we are creating this simple CRUD application using Next.js and AppWrite. Now in the previous video, we created the UI of the application and this is how it looks. Now in this video, we will start connecting the front end to the API. So let's get started. Right here, I'm in the source code and let's start by writing the code for the home page. So here we can see in the home page, we have all these tech interpretations displayed over here. Right now, if we go to our AppWrite database, and if you open this collection, we can see that we have this one term over here. And let's go ahead and add some terms over here. So I'll just click on create document, and I'll just copy some of these from here. So I'll just copy this, and let's paste it over here for the term. And for the interpretation, let's copy this, and let's paste it over here. We are doing this directly in AppWrite so that we can get some data to display on the home page. Later, we will add the functionality to add it using a form. So let's go ahead and click on next and create. And this term has been created. Let's create one more. And let's copy this one right here. And let's paste it over here. And let's copy this interpretation and let's paste it over here. And let's click on next, create. Right, so we have three interpretations displayed over here. Now let's go ahead and display them in the home page. So for that, let's go back to our home page. And this is the home page. We have this page.tsx file. And right now we have hard-coded this data over here. So the first thing we will do is we will create some states. So let's tap const and let's create a state for interpretations. So let's tap interpretations. And let's tap set interpretations. And here let's tap equals use state. And let's import it from React. And for the type, we need to set it to an array of interpretations. So let's go ahead and create an interface for that. So I'll just tap interface. And let's call it IInterpretations. And here let's type $ID. So it will have this ID with a type of string. And then it will have the term with the type of string. And then it will have interpretation with a type of string. So this is how the interpretation data will look. So let's go ahead and add that type over here. So here let's type IInterpretation array. Now since we are using use state, we need to change this component into a client component. So here we need to type use client. And now let's create another state. And this will be for checking whether the interpretations are loading. So let's type is loading and let's type set is loading equals use state, and by default we will set it to true. Right now we'll create a use effect, and in that we will write the code to fetch the interpretations. So let's type use effect and it will be triggered when the page loads. So in that we'll create an arrow function, and we need to have a dependency array. So I'll just set it to an empty array. And we need to import this from React. So here we can see import use effect from React. And here let's create a function called fetch interpretations. And it will be an async function. And here, the first thing we will do is we will set the is loading state to true. And then we will use a try catch block. And here, let's create a const called response, and we will type await fetch. And we need to call the API that we created in the last video. So we have this API called API interpretations. And in that we have this route.ts file where we are getting the interpretations. And if we scroll down here, we can see we have this get method. And here we are just returning the interpretations. So let's go back and let's fetch the interpretations by typing /API/interpretations. And this will give us the interpretations data. And here, first of all, let's check whether the response is okay. So let's type if exclamation response. So if the response is not okay, then we need to type throw new error. And here let's type failed to fetch interpretations. And then let's go ahead and store the JSON of the result into a constant, and I'll just call it data equals await response, which we are getting from here, .json. And then let's store this JSON data to this interpretations state. So let's type set interpretations data. And here in the catch, let's type console.log error, and I'll just print this error. And then let's add a finally. So this will run at the end, even if you have an error. So here let's type set is loading, and let's set it to false. So once all the interpretations have been fetched, we'll just set the loading state to false. Alright, now let's go ahead and call this function. So let's type fetch interpretations. Now let's create one more state for the error. So here I'll just type const, and let's type error, set error equals use state, and by default it will be null, and the type will be string or null. And here in the catch we'll also set the error. So let's type set error, and let's set it to failed to load interpretations. Please try reloading the page. Right, now let's scroll down, and here we need to add all of this inside so that we can loop through all the interpretations and display them one by one. So the first thing we will do is we will create a paragraph for the error. So I'll just type curly braces, and here let's type error ampersand ampersand. So this code after this ampersand will run only if the error is set to some value. So here let's create a paragraph tag, and here I'll just type error. So it will display this error right here. And I'll just go ahead and add some classes. So I'll just type class name, and let's set the top and bottom padding to 4. And I'll just set the text color to red 500. Right, now let's add all of this inside another curly braces. So let's cut all of this, and let's paste it in here. And here, first of all, we will check whether it is loading. So if it is loading, then it will have this state set to true. So let's type is loading question mark. And if it is loading, then I'll just create a paragraph, and I'll just type loading interpretations. And let's add this inside parenthesis. And now here let's add an else. So we can just type colon, and then we have this division. Now here in this container division, we will loop through all the interpretations, and we will display this HTML. So let's do that. Here let's add this inside curly braces, and let's type interpretations dot map. Now for each of the interpretations, I'll just call it interpretation, and here we'll just return some JSX. So let's create parentheses, and here we will add the HTML. So I think we need to add this division as well inside the map, because this is, I think, the container division of each of these terms. So let's add this division inside the map, and let's close the division over here. And now we need to add this HTML inside this division. So let's copy this. So we need to copy all of this, and I'll just cut it and paste it over here. Right, now let's go ahead and delete these class names from here. So now let's go ahead and replace these values with the values from the interpretation. So let's go ahead and type curly braces interpretation dot term, and we need to add a key for each of the map elements. So here let's type key, and let's set it to interpretation dot $ID, and here instead of this text, let's type curly braces, and here let's type interpretation dot interpretation. And now let's go ahead and save this, and let's go back to our website. And now we can see that all the interpretations are displayed over here. So if you go back to AppWrite, and if I just change some things over here, so if I just change this data to updated, and let's click on update. And now if you go back and if you reload this page, we can see that updated is being displayed over here. So we are indeed getting the data from AppWrite. Now let's go back, and here we have this edit button, and this is basically a link. Now here for the link, we need to pass the ID as well. Now we need to pass the ID as a parameter. So here I'll just change this into backticks, and here let's type /$ $, curly braces, and here we need to type interpretation dot $ID. So now if you go back and if we hover over this, we can see that the ID is being displayed after the edit in the URL. So if I click on edit, here we can see that the ID is being displayed and it ends with 1B. Now if you go back and if we open this term right here, so if I click on edit, we have another ID. So the edit URL is working alright. Now the last thing we will do in this video is we will make this delete button work. So here we have this delete button. So let's create a function for deleting the data. So here let's type const handle delete. Now this is going to be an async function. So let's type async over here, and we'll get a parameter and it'll be an ID and it will be of type string. Now if you take a look at this API, we can see that we have this API, and in that we have the interpretations, and in that we have this dynamic route ID. So we can pass the ID of the term that we want to delete, and it will be deleted. So if you go to this route.ts file and if you scroll down, here we can see that for the delete we are accepting this params and we are getting the ID. So let's go back and let's pass the ID. So let's add a try catch block, and here let's type await, and let's type fetch, and here for the URL let's type backticks API interpretations / and we need to pass the ID. So we'll get the ID in this handle delete function over here. So let's type $ curly braces ID, and here we need to pass the method as well. So let's type method and let's set it to delete. Now with this fetch call, the interpretation will be deleted. Now let's also update the UI. So for that I'll just type set interpretations, which is this state that we have over here, and I'll just type prev interpretations for the previous values. You can name this anything you want, and here we can just type prev interpretations dot filter, and here let's type I for the ID, and here let's type I dot $ID is not equal to ID. Now what this line of code will do is that it will see which of the interpretations has the ID that we provided over here, and it will just filter out that and display the rest of the interpretations. Right now here in the catch, let's go ahead and type set error, and let's set it to failed to delete interpretation, and let's type please try again. Right now let's go ahead and call this handle delete function. So let's go to the button, and here in the button let's go ahead and add an on click, and here I'll just type handle delete, and I'll just pass the ID. So let's type interpretation dot $ID. Right now let's go back to the app and let's see whether it works. So let's click on this delete button, and now we can see that the term has been deleted. So if you go to the AppWrite collection and if I reload this page, so if you go over here to interpretations, here we can see we just have these two terms. So let's go back and delete one of these as well, and now we can see we have just one of these terms. And if you go back over here and if I reload this page, here we can see we have just one term, and if you go back and if we reload this page, we have just one term, and if I delete this as well, we have nothing over here, and here also we don't have anything. So when we don't have any interpretations, I'll just display a message called no interpretations found. So let's go back, and here instead of directly adding this div, I'll just type interpretations dot length is greater than 0, and if it is greater than 0, then we'll just display this div. And let's scroll down, and I'll just add an else, and let's add parenthesis, and let's create a paragraph, and let's type no interpretations found. And now we can see it says no interpretations found. But if we add a new interpretation over here, so just copy this one, and let's click on next and create. And now if you go back, here we have the interpretation displayed, but if you don't have any, then it will display no interpretations found. Now let's go back to our code editor, and I think we have an error over here. So here we can see we have this error. So if we scroll up, here we need to change this to an array, and now we can see we don't have any errors. And I'll also change the name of the interface to just interpretation. So I'll just change this over here as well. Right now we don't have any errors, and if you go back, everything is working as expected. Alright, so that's basically it with the homepage of our app. In the next video, we will continue creating the rest of the features. So that's basically it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.